to live your life in a way that you're not overwhelmed or dysfunctional because of difficult or overwhelming emotions.
For example, I had a very judgy part, and now it's not judging me, it's consulting me. So it still has a job, right? I don't think that you can completely eliminate things. I think you can transform them 1000%.
Cool. Well, we're making progress.
Yes.
This is I think episodes. You don't like when I mention the episodes.
Yeah, an episode.
This is an episode. I'm gonna say it's episode 7. I know you're not gonna like that.
Okay. No, it's okay.
But it's good. I think it shows us the progress. I think there's part of us that's trying to figure out, we have so many topics, and the goal of this is just to be super authentic and super real and just talk about what comes to mind. And then sometimes just figuring out the kind of the flow of the situation. I mean, literally like using AI to figure out like, how do we, what's a good way, if this is a topic we want to talk about, what is a good way to kind of flow it, and how does it lead from topic to topic, and challenging to talk about. Our last one was very, I'd say, quote unquote heavy. It was relatively intense. It was real, which I'm really happy we talked about.
And important.
Real and important. And this one is also real and important. I think the topic, we've hit on it a lot. We've hit on it several times, but we haven't I don't think really dove deep into how to resolve this issue or how you and I see this. And our AI tool gave us a good kind of intro into how to review this. But the topic for today is spiritual bypassing, and the concept that there's really a couple different ways. For me, there's an underlying theme, and the theme is similar for the spiritual path, the emotionally deep path. They all have the same intention. In my mind, the intention is to resolve or work through unpleasant emotions. I should say, not maybe work through, because maybe that's controversial in your end, but to handle, right? To live your life in a way that you're not overwhelmed or dysfunctional because of difficult or overwhelming emotions. Right? I think that's why we're doing what we're doing, is we're finding tools. That's why people find different methods. That's why we're on a healing journey. It's why we talk about these things, because we're trying to live life. You're trying to live life. You're trying to enjoy yourself. You're trying to progress. You're trying to be a part of the world. You're trying to be a productive member. You're trying to feel good about yourself.
No, I also want results.
Yeah, you want results. And in order to move forward, in order to live life, you need to be able to feel about yourself a certain way. My contention is that if you felt about yourself a certain way that's not healthy or not positive, then you wouldn't take healthy or positive actions towards yourself to progress yourself forward, and you wouldn't be taking those same healthy positive actions in the real world to push yourself forward, or to be productive, or to help society, or to make the world a better place, to share your truth, to share your love, to share your creativity, so on and so forth. So I believe that that's the foundation of why we have all these tools and modalities. Now, where the conversation kind of gets interesting is okay, well, how do you do that? How do you get yourself to a place where you're feeling that way, and you're productive, and you're getting results, and you're moving forward, and you're feeling good about yourself, and you're feeling good about the people around your world, and you have engaged positive relationships, you have an engaged, fulfilling career, so on and so forth. So we may have a lot of these underlying negative, difficult emotions. They may be overwhelming. They may be deep inside of us, and they're things to work through. And if folks instead used a system, in this case, spiritual modalities or methods, to shift focus away from these negative emotions, to say to themselves, well, I'd rather not feel this way. I'd rather not get bogged down by these feelings. I want to see results, and I want to get to this place, and I want to feel good. So the argument is, if you're trying not to feel these certain heavy emotions, and you're trying not to feel negative emotion, you're trying not to be overwhelmed, then you use different spiritual modalities to change your focus, to focus on things that make you feel good. There are different tools out there like affirmations and positive, like brain and subconscious rewiring. There's hypnosis. There's different types of meditations, all with an attempt. And this is a major focus of a lot of people's healings journey, like famous spiritual teachers, including like Tony Robbins. And there's common themes across them, which is basically like wherever you put your attention, whatever you focus on, that's where your energy goes, and your energy creates your life, and so on and so forth. So the conversation that you and I have a lot, and probably have today, is I'm of the belief that while it's important to not ignore your underlying negative, quote unquote, unpleasant, I would say counterproductive emotions, and respecting those emotions as communication tools, as signals to you in terms of what's working, what's not working. Are you taking action? Are you thinking thoughts that are aligned with your higher self, with the understanding that your higher self is true light, love, abundance, wealth, all goodness. Like our soul is just pure goodness. So anything that is not aligned with that, you're going to get an emotion, and it's going to communicate to you, and it's going to tell you, hey, I'm not in alignment with this concept. So my argument is you have to respect those emotions. You have to listen to them. However, and an overwhelming amount of scrutiny and focus on those emotions is going to affect your thought process. It's going to amount to putting your time, energy, attention into those negative, overwhelming emotions. And when you do that, you're taking up space instead for your brain to not be able to go to positive thinking and to think good things about yourself. And if anyone's ever been caught in these like negative self-talk or these loops, or if anyone's critical about themselves, their bodies, have shameful thoughts, feelings, and emotions about themselves, I believe that loop and that thought process, like, we need to get out of that it is a dangerous cycle. It is a cyclical, satanic, yeah.
You want to see irony?
Yeah. What, you're wearing a Hail Satan shirt? Yeah.
So ironic. Go on.
That is funny. With the rainbow and a unicorn, whatever the thing is. Looks like you're showing it when your breasts.
No, it like
that's not this type of podcast. Maybe it could be. So it is in my mind the devil, quote unquote, the satanic part of you, the part of your soul that is challenging you, as our polarity conversations that we've had before, light, dark, good, bad, light, white, black, yin, yang, sun, moon, night, day. I'll keep going. So it is the part of you that is there to challenge and test your capability for self-love and for positivity, which is what we're meant for. We are here. We are meant to have abundance, to have wealth, to have self-love, to have just love in general, to have all goodness. That's what our soul is here. Our soul isn't here to suffer. Like, I don't believe that.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Why do we have those negative thoughts?
We have them to test our ability to transform our soul. We came here to experience. We are unlimited beings. We are part of soul. We are God. We are divinity. We are part of pure consciousness. And we came to the quote unquote Earth School, shout out Dolores Cannon, to help understand what limitation is, in the effort to understand and learn more about ourselves. We came to increase our self-awareness and our self-love. And the only way to do that is to become limited human beings, to put our soul in a human body, to understand what it is to be limited. Because if you don't understand what it is to be limited, you don't understand what it is to be unlimited. You have to limit yourself to understand what it truly means to be unlimited. That's the lesson of gratitude. You don't understand what it is to have something unless you truly appreciate what it is to not have it. And so to experience a difficulty, to experience a negative emotion, to experience any realistic issue or problem we're having in our lives, the point of that is to be able to be appreciative of what's on the other side, to learn that we have to transform and that we're not yet at the place that we really could be, which is pure love, pure light, gratitude, and abundance.
Well, I agree. I think it's a lot of lessons, right? But my next question to you would be like, you say that it's important to listen and be aware of these, like let's call it pain, triggers or negative thoughts. So what is the extent of listening to it? Like for you, for example, where do you draw the line? You know,
Yeah.
where are you like, okay, this is satanic? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Satan. When someone goes like this, I draw for me actually, and this is cool. This is like literally a scientific fact. This is all on Gaia and a lot of what Dr. Joe Dispenza focuses on, but the root of the Latin word of emotions, energy and motion, right? It's literally like energy movement. And scientifically, biologically, you can test this. An emotion and energy only lasts in your body for 90 seconds. That's the truth. That's a fact. And what happens is we create stories of that energy and they get trapped in our bodies. And that's the root of trauma is energy trapped and stored in our body, in our subconscious brain, which remembers and it repeats. And what trauma really is, in my mind, is our body trying to like finish a cycle. It gets stuck, it gets trapped in an energy and it tries to complete a cycle, and it's continuing to do that over and over and over again. And so it repeats and it gets familiar with that pattern. It feels very safe in that pattern. That's why our bodies repeat. Our body only repeats what we're very comfortable and familiar with. So the unfortunate part about like a traumatic cycle is the ironic part is we're trying to complete it. We're trying to heal ourselves. Our body is constantly trying to heal itself. It's trying to help itself. It's trying to finish the process.
yeah,
But
fix the story.
it's trying to fix the story.
Happy ending.
Happy ending. And that's the story of the universe. It's the story of our bodies. Our bodies are constantly healing. Like our bodies are miraculous machines, healing itself, and it knows what to do. In the case of trauma, it's repeating it because in its definition, that is safety. Because it knows it's survived. Somehow it's here, right? It's here today. We're here. And it knows it's survived. And it believes that by doing that thing, it is going to continue to survive. That's the only reason it's repeating itself. Is because in its mind, it survived and it did that. And when that event occurred, it survived and it did this thing. So it's like, oh, okay. I get it. If I feel this way, if I do this thing, I will survive. And that's why it keeps repeating. Now, obviously, if you take it to the present moment, like that's part of what healing trauma is about in my mind, is taking it out of the past, coming to the present, saying, hey, we're here now. We're here now. We're in a different scenario. What you've been trying to do to solve this problem, to repeat the cycle, isn't going to help because we're out of this. Here's what we need now, and I can help you work through this. It's kind of like bringing it out of its time loop. It's stuck in a time loop in the past. And you have to bring to the present, say, you're safe, and here's a different kind of way of going about this. But so back to the point of like energy doesn't last in your body for very long. It's literally only 90 seconds. And if you're able to kind of get that energy through you through different modalities, this is why we talked about last time, like exercise, moving your body. That's why it's so important to literally just discharge your body's energy. And there's different nervous system regulation movements that you can do. We talked about body washing, literally shaking, jumping. It's a big thing now for people to go on these have you seen these, like trampoline, the bouncers? That's good for a couple of reasons. One, it's good for movement. It's also good to discharge and drain your lymphatic system.
When you have a negative thought, you recommend someone to run or jump?
I think when you're having negative energy, and I don't like the word negative even, honestly, because negative has a bad connotation, right? Negative is like bad. But if you're having a unpleasant or a thought or emotion that you don't prefer, like for example, let's say you get stuck in a thought loop about something about your body, something about an aspect of your physical body that you're not happy with. So you can say, wait a sec. First you have to be aware. You're like, okay, I'm having a thought about my body, something that doesn't feel good. So the first step is always awareness. And it's really, we talked about this, I think, a little bit ago, but like Jim Quick, one of my favorite teachers, he has a great acronym for this, like ABRA. That's why words are so powerful, abracadabra. But ABRA, and this is Hebrew and Aramaic too, which is my favorite part. But ABRA, is the acronym stands for be aware. That's the A, being aware of what's coming up for you. B, breathe. Make sure you're breathing, because breathing, what that does is it activates your nervous system. It regulates your nervous system. So you move from sympathetic to parasympathetic, which calms you. And from a calm state, that's where everything happens. You can't do anything if you're not in a calm state. Think about a fight or flight. You're moving, you're free. Something's happening where you're not able to create in a way that's safe and peaceful. You're creating out of a frenzied state. So it's very important for your body to calm down. R is to release what's this energy that you notice that's flowing through you that you prefer not to have and that making you feel bad. And then A is align with what you prefer. And this is Abraham Hicks' teachings.
How do you align?
Yeah.
With what you prefer?
Well, if we start from the beginning, this is a roadmap to, I believe, how life works for us. Is everything starts from a thought. Everything starts from a thought. It's the intention, everything that is created in this room, everything that you've ever created in your life, everything that you've ever done has started with a thought. I want this. I need this. I'm worthy enough of this. I'm not worthy enough of this. It all has a base underlying thought, which aka intention, aka desire. It's all kind of different forms of it. But it starts from a thought, whether it's conscious or subconscious. Then it moves to a feeling. Then it moves to the body. And from the thought moves to the body in a feeling and an emotion. And from that state of being, it's called, we take an action. We take an inspired action. So the combination of your thought, your feeling, and your inspired action is what creates your reality. It's what creates your world. So if you're having an unpleasant, undesired feeling, emotion, energy, it's most likely that you have an unpleasant, undesired thought. Again, this could be
So what do you do with the thought?
Well,
you breathe it out?
Well, this could be a
You wait
subconscious
90
thought.
seconds?
There's several things you can and should
So
do.
that's my question. You
Yeah.
said earlier about emotions, and you said that you need to listen to them and you need to, not ignore them. So that's what I'm trying to understand. Where in everything you said you're not ignoring your feelings/emotions?
Yeah, the emotion is. I think what's important to get across to people is that the emotion, it's not like sometimes it's very quiet. It doesn't have to be this like loud, big thing. This is why getting in touch with your body, this is why calming your body is so important and this is where intuition comes into play. Intuition is listening to, our mind is very loud. Okay. Our mind is like clunky gear. It's like watch work. I mean, you can hear it. It's very loud. And our body, the way our body communicates is usually much softer than that. So the point is you'll get some sort of communication from your body and that will come across differently, maybe for some people, but it usually indicates a thought that you're having that's misaligned with who you really are. And who you really are is pure consciousness, love, and light. Okay. So if you're having an emotion that's unpleasant, the next step really is to calm your nervous system, to be aware, say, hey, this is coming up for me, to breathe, to calm your nervous system, and then start to question your thoughts. Be like, what am I thinking? I must be thinking something that's misaligning me, which is why I'm feeling this feeling. It could be unconscious. It could be some form of limiting belief, some form of self-deprecating, some form of I'm not good enough, some form of I'm not worthy, some form of I don't belong here, some form of I hate myself. It's some form of destructive thought pattern, whether it's conscious or subconscious, and becoming aware of it, shining a light on it. That literally is the process. That's why awareness, mindfulness meditation is so transformative, because there's not much else that you have to do besides calming your body and focusing, I just had a self-deprecating, hateful thought. I just put myself down. Again. And you can kind of like have fun with it a little bit. And you start to notice that if you continue this work and you're very disciplined about this work and you go through a process and you have a regimen, like it doesn't have to be maybe forever because that feels overwhelming for people, but take like a week or 2 weeks. And there's a lot of teachers that teach this. You'd like bring a notebook, have a notebook on you, and just throughout the day, just notice and write down, like jot down what's happening for you, what's coming. Oh my God, I just had another thought. Okay, wow. I had that feeling, but I realized like I was sitting and I was in a meeting and I thought like, I don't have anything good to offer and I don't belong here. And what am I doing here? And like, oh, that's why you were feeling anxious. That's why you were feeling sad. You were feeling not good enough because you were watching a show and you were comparing yourself to all the people who you thought looked better than you.
So I'm hearing that you're basically saying, acknowledging and bringing awareness to the fact that you have a negative thought or something like that. it's basically separating you from that thought, and then you're able to kind of like be like, okay, so I had a negative thought. I'm aware of it. Moving on. Is that right?
I think I would encapsulate everything you just said, and I said probably into like the first major paradigm shift.
Okay.
And then what I would argue the second big paradigm shift is the transmutation of that. It's the transformation.
How does that happen?
That happens through intention, through saying to yourself like, okay, now that I've done this work to be aware of what's coming up for me. And if we have the foundation that I'm the creator of my reality, and if we have the foundation that I am made out of pure light, love, and I'm part of pure divinity myself, and we're all souls in a human body, we're all equal, we're all unique, we're all beautiful, and that's who I'm meant to be, and I'm having thoughts that are not aligned with that reality. Now, the second part is a transformation of that, the transmutation of that, which is, okay, well, what sort of thoughts can I think that would align me with that? Teal Swan says it really well. She goes like, there's a mantra she had when she started her self-love journey, and I've taken this on. It's really, really helpful. But it's what she literally would ask herself before she thinks anything, before she does anything, before anything happens, she would go, what would someone who loves themselves think, say, and do? And that is part of the transformation process, is to be intentional. Now that you become aware of the unintentional, the subconscious, the limiting beliefs that are running your program, that you've been programmed with for decades and decades, that you haven't been accustomed to, you haven't been challenging, you haven't been aware of the fact that you've been thinking these unpleasant thoughts, and they've been destructive, they've been holding you back, they've been forcing you to procrastinate, they've been limiting the version of your true, best, highest self. Now that you become aware of that, the second paradigm shift is to be intentional about transforming those thoughts. So there's different actions you can take. What I do in my daily practice, and I recommend to all my coaching clients, is to start with your self-talk. Your self-talk, I believe, is the biggest, most important piece of this, because your self-talk, no one is around you as much as you are around you. And you don't hear any voice more than you hear your own voice in your head and the words that you say to yourself. And Marissa Peer, she's one of my favorite hypnosis meditation teachers. Because your reality is a combination of what the words that you say to yourself and the pictures you put in your head. So that is in my mind, the most critical piece. And aligning yourself with who you really are, which is love, light, pure energy. Your positive self-talk is the most important thing.
What if you don't believe that?
That's
what
a great
if
question.
you don't think that you are love and light? What if you think that you are fundamentally broken and damaged and, like nothing gets better and you just depressed? So I think it's really hard to take someone from a place of like, I'm broken, my life is in shambles, to a place of, oh, no, you're love and light, my dear. I mean, what do you have to say to these people? How do they start? How do they even wrap their head around those ideas?
Yeah, I guess I'd say, like, I'd counter by saying I hear what you're saying. I wouldn't say that it's hard. It's one of those things that's like not hard, but maybe it's not simple. Like maybe seems complicated to move from such a point of what I would argue is like self-hate, really, to self-love. And I think the process to get there is a combination of like baby steps. Like if you say something you absolutely don't believe, then yes, of course, like that gap may be too hard for you to believe. But the definition of a belief is literally just a thought that you keep thinking. So if you think, okay, well, I may just believe this because I've thought this for so long, that I can instill any new belief if I just think it and think it enough. And if you're going from, let's say, 0 to 100, I would probably agree. If you went from, I hate myself, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable of this, I'm never going to be successful, I'm worthless, to I'm great, I'm love and light and pure energy. Like maybe that's too big of a gap. So a recommendation would, and this is Abraham Esther Hicks, this is Teal Swan, all these folks agree on this concept, which is, so get to a thought that feels better. This is how you can always, say, how can I move in the right direction? This is the goal. This is the plan, is think the next better feeling thought. You think the next better feeling thought. So you find a thought on that spectrum that can be believable, that feels better, the next step you can reach. So instead of going from I'm not worthy, I'm not capable, I'm unable to do this, to I'm worthy, I'm love and light, like that's a huge gap for a lot of people. You could say, this person who's really down on themselves, you could say, well, it's possible that I may deserve love. Right? You could say, it's possible that I deserve not to die in this ditch.
Yeah.
You can say, it is possible that one day something may work for me. And you can create a sentence and a belief and a thought that is at least one step greater and higher, more aligned to your true self than where you're at now. You're right. It may not be all the way, and you may have to take baby steps. I have this practice now where I believe that what you put into your body, I'm very sensitive about what I put in my body. And I think it's very important. Like what we put in, we get out. So I drink this hydrogen water, which is good for several different reasons. But one of the practices I learned about self-love was if I couldn't love myself in the beginning of my journey, which is really hard for a lot of people to say these things, I'm worthy, I'm love and light and pure energy and God's, it's like, for some people, it's too much of a leap. So, but the ironic part is we can do that for other people way easier than we can do it for ourselves, right? Can't you remember a time where you loved someone else? Like you're fully in it. Your heart was just, every time you think about this person, you just had tremendous amount of love. And I'd argue that a lot of us can do that better for someone else than we can for ourselves. It's the same reason why sometimes you can coach a basketball team, but you see this overweight coach who can't shoot a free throw, or he can't move around. He's not running the drills, but he can coach. He's a great coach. He knows exactly what he's doing. So it's the same concept that sometimes we can do this for other people. So your ability is there. Now it's just not directed in the right area.
Yeah. So I hear you. I hear that you're saying that there are a lot of ways to get yourself to a different thought from a negative one.
Yeah, but I didn't finish that concept.
All right, go
I was just going to say, so like what I do is I drink that water and, before I do, it has like a 5-minute hydrogenation process where the hydrogen goes through the water. So it takes a few minutes and I use that time to send love to the water. Because in the beginning of my journey, it was really hard to say those things to myself. But I could say to the water, I could extend it. Just like I've extended love to other people. Just like I've given unconditional love to people in my life. But in the beginning of my journey, it was difficult to do for myself. So I could do the water, and like the Trojan horse concept, that love and that water is coming back to me. And slowly, that's a great tool to use it, again, if you're in the kind of the beginning of your journey and finding out ways to build that for yourself. It's the same reason why some of these famous experiments, have you seen the experiment? You can do this yourself. There's also a great book that came out, like how to test a lot of these energy and love experiments on your own at home. But there's this experiment where if you have, for example, like 3 sections of let's say soil, and you're trying to plant something, flower, seed, something, and one section you tell it, I love you, I love you, I love you every morning. The next you tell it like, I love you, I love you, love you, grow, like grow as high as you can. The next one you say, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, like don't grow. And the next one you just ignore it. And there's a lot of these studies and experiments that have been published where you'll see literally the difference. And try it for yourselves.
I know.
The plant will grow that you give it love. The ones that you ignore and tell it hate, it won't. So these are ways to prove to people like, hey, this works. But, I agree that it's probably hard to go to 0 to 100, but there are steps along the way that you can get that are reasonable enough to improve.
Okay, and I understand, and I hear a lot of practical things that people can do, and I think that's very appreciated, and a lot of people will really appreciate it, but I'm asking, where is the room for the emotional work? If all you do is kind of like
what do you mean by emotional
redirecting
work?
thoughts.
Yeah. What do you mean by emotional work?
I mean, feeling your pain, feeling your feelings, being okay in the negative feeling, being okay that, you're crying right now, or that you have a really negative thought about yourself.
There's room for that in this entire process. I mean, if you remember, step 1 is awareness. That's the first step in this process.
Okay, so how does that look for you?
So awareness means tuning into your body, seeing what's coming up for you, holding it with compassionate awareness, non-judgmental, compassionate awareness. That's how I'd say
How do you do that?
How do you do that? You have to cultivate compassion for yourself through this self-love process, all the things we just talked about, you're cultivating compassion for yourself along your journey.
By saying reasonable affirmations.
Yeah, well, everything I just mentioned for the past 20 minutes.
I know, and I'm listening, and just, I'm trying to break it down and simplify it. So
there's many other practical ways. I haven't gone through every single practical way to increase self-love and compassion in this podcast, and maybe we can list some more after this, or maybe we could spend another podcast talking about more, like, all the practical ways. I mean, it's not a comprehensive list of all the ways, but there are many, many ways to increase self-compassion. You can do that through meditation. There's loving kindness meditations, there's energetic work, there's yoga, there's a lot of different modalities, but the point is, you're showing yourself increased levels of compassion and self-love. And so as you're doing that for yourself, and it's not like one or the other, this isn't an exclusive, I have to do this and I can't do that. You're doing everything kind of at the same time. And while you're increasing your self-love and compassion, you're becoming more and more aware of, okay, I'm having these unloving thoughts. These are coming. I'm having this energy that's unpleasant, or I'm having this anxiety that's coming up, or I'm having this depression that's coming up. I'm witnessing, I'm noticing. As the observer, this is where the spiritual foundation comes into play, because you realize I am not, we need to disidentify with those thoughts and emotions, because you are not anxiety. You are not PTSD. You are not your label. You are not OCD. You are not these things. You are God. I am energy. I'm the power of pure consciousness. The words that we use are really, really important.
So why do you have that?
You may experience anxiety from time to time. You may have depressing thoughts, but you are not them. You are not even your name. You can't even say, I'm Rachel. You can say, my name is Rachel, because you are not Rachel. Because names come and go. You could change your name. You could change your name tomorrow. Go to the courthouse. You can call yourself whatever you want. You are not your name. Actually, this is a really cool biblical circle around to some biblical literature. When God introduces himself for the first time in the Bible, you know what he calls himself? Moses asks, how should I introduce you? And he's going to Egypt and talk to Pharaoh. And he says, who should I say? I forget the exact sentence, but he goes, who shall I say sent me? Something like that.
Yeah.
And God says, I am what I am. I will be what I will be. You know that in Hebrew.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Ehiyeh, which is Yahweh. That's why we come up with Yahweh. Ehiyeh, I will be what I will be. I am what I am.
Yeah.
So whatever follows I am is what you are. Yeah. And so you can say, I have these anxious thoughts. I have these from time to time. Sure. No one's denying that. And again, I'm someone who's dealt with that for the majority of my life. And so I'm not dismissing or belittling the impact that has in your life. However, the step to handling these things is to remove yourself from them, from like being immersed in them, from being overwhelmed by them, from them controlling you, and to realize that they are emotions. They are communicating back to you in order to help you, in order to transform, to get through them, not to get stuck on them, not to stay on them, not to focus on them 24/7.
So I reckon that instead of saying remove yourself, you can say accept them, which I think that's maybe, where I get the feeling sensation of bypassing.
Yeah, can you go through that?
Yes.
A little more
so,
in depth?
Okay.
I kind of missed it.
I think, and it's not a secret that we have a disagreement about this subject, and I think that what makes this a disagreement, and I think we are agreeing.
Okay, so you're saying it's no surprise that we have a disagreement.
No, I think that I'm just sensitive to your language, because I think we're saying the same thing. Mm-hmm. Only for me, compassion would say, I am going to accept these negative thoughts as part of me. They're just a part. I'm still, separating myself from it. But in my practice, I am accepting the part of me that has these negative thoughts, and I fully witness and understand it. When you're saying, remove yourself from it, right?
No, I would say, I understand that you're saying accepting, and there's no rejection as part of my process or my ideology. My concept rather is that the parts of you that are thinking those hurtful things are not the real you. They're a limiting part of you that you have created, or a part of your ego identity has created to try to keep you safe, to support you in some way, but that is actually counterproductive and not helpful. And if you continue to focus on those, you're going to place your energy and focus on negative, hurtful things. And my argument is, be aware of those things that are coming up. Don't reject them. Don't push them away. They're very valuable parts they're communicating to you. That's very important messages that you're misaligned, that you have the ability to transform here, that you have the ability to feel better, and that you have your body needs something from you. Your thoughts need something from you. They need support. It's like, for example, saying, I don't like how my hair looks today. I don't like how I look. And I'm not going to go to this meeting. I'm not going to go to this group because I don't like how I look. That we should talk real world examples, because that thought is making you feel less than, unworthy, not pretty, not beautiful, not good enough. You're feeling terrible. Your action is, I stay home. I don't go to this thing. Right? So it's unpleasant all the way around. But really what your body's telling you is, I need more love. I need you to realign yourself with who you really are and love me. Like, you're not giving me the love you're not giving us the love that we need. And it's preventing you from living the type of life that you really are meant to live.
So what do you do with the part that says, I need more love?
We do the entire process I mentioned, the past 10, 20 minutes, which is be aware of what's coming up, breathe through it, realize that it's a false part of you, a limiting part of you that was created for some reason to help you, but it's stuck in time. Let's get it to the present. Let's calm our bodies, and let's realign and say, that is not true. I'm not less than. I'm not beautiful. I'm not pretty. I'm good enough. I'm worthy enough. I am these things. And you may not believe it to begin with, but that's the practice. You have to build that, like anything else. Go to the gym.
So the gap for me is, instead of doing that, what I would do would be telling it to the part. We are beautiful. You are worth enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't see how there's so much distinction there. Yeah, the difference would be that you're speaking to a specific part of your body.
Yeah, instead of saying, this is not the truth of me, I am accepting it as the truth of the part. And that is less of a, like, in my opinion, in my world, in my perception. And that's why I'm saying, I think we both mean the same, but I have sensitive ears.
Yeah, I think, like, this is why when we try to like bridge the gap between our ways of thinking, and I thought that the concept that I tried to use last time, which I thought was pretty cool, but maybe it doesn't resonate as much, which is like, who's sitting at the seat of consciousness, right? Like, if you imagine that in your world, you're in the parts world, right? The IFS is very, very much heavy into parts work. So you have different parts of us that are different things. And I agree with that. Like, we have different versions of ourselves. We have the victim, we have the child, we have these different, what's considered, what's the word I'm looking for? It's part of that book I'm reading, Soul Contracts by Caroline Myss. I love her work, but archetypes, different archetypes, and a lot of people use that term, Tony Robbins included. So you have different archetypes, you have different parts of yourself that come up, and imagine them sitting at a table, like the Knights of the Round Table, whatever. You have 12, like a conference room if you're in tech, I don't know, whatever. Just think you're sitting at a table. And different parts of yourself are going to sometimes sit in what's called like the seat of consciousness. Like, who's in charge of Jonathan right now? Like, who are you talking to? You're talking to the self in IFS, which is equivalent to God, your creator, your higher self, your divinity, your soul, the soul part of you, the real you. That's the real you.
Yeah. That's
the part of you that's all the 8 C's. It's like calm, compassionate, curious, confident. I forget some of the other C's, but right. Curious. So I think the difference probably in what we're saying, but I try to use that analogy to say, like, the self is who ideally should be sitting in the seat of consciousness. There may be parts that jump into the seat of consciousness, but it's like having a child, who's supposed to be sitting in the back seat of your car is now driving the car. And you're like, whoa.
Yeah, but if I'm able to be like, hey, part that thinks that my hair doesn't look good, I see you. You're good enough that I'm sitting in the seat of consciousness. That is the part of the process of increasing your self-love, like saying those things to yourself. You're doing that. That's what you're doing. You're saying, I am worthy, I am good enough, and I am these things. And what I think is different too about the approach is you're talking to a specific part, like you are good enough, instead of saying like I am. And the word I am and your entire soul is important part of this process, because if you're focused on the part that's negative, then you're not focused on yourself as a whole as being good. But I am self, right? Higher self. I know that I'm enough. I know that I'm good. I know that I'm whole. But this part doesn't. So that's why I think
But
it's
if this part
important.
doesn't, then that contradicts your entire theory. If there's a part of you that doesn't, then you don't believe that about yourself.
But you just said that that's just a part, and it's not the truth of you. So
Correct.
it's a conflict.
It is a conflict, and that's what I'm saying. Part of the conflict is returning to who you really are.
But returning to who you really are is integrating the parts of you that don't feel worthy and showing them that we are.
What does the integrating part look like? Because I just mentioned a bunch of integrating processes of increasing your
And
self-compassion.
I'm not
Right.
saying that all of these parts that are, all of these processes are not integrating.
Right. So what is integrating?
There are so many
Yeah.
ways of doing integration,
Yeah.
right? But I think that integrating is taking the fragments of you, the parts with the negative thoughts, the parts with the pain, and just transforming them and bringing them on board, right? So we're a team and we're not working against each other. So whenever I have a negative thought, because no healing will take away all negative thoughts, do you agree? Unless you're like a mannequin, like,
no,
I don't know.
I don't agree. Yeah, I think that that's the goal. The ultimate goal is to get your energy.
Let's say negative
to stay-
emotions, not thoughts, okay?
I think that it is. I don't agree with that. I think the it is possible. Like that's the state is in. The goal is to be in a state of love.
So if the goal is to be in a
100%.
state of love,
Yeah.
it also means to also love the dark side of yourself.
Of course, you have to be
Also
aware
love
of
the
it.
negative
You have to
thoughts,
have-
the negative parts, the parts that are in pain, the parts that are like crying inside for attention.
You have to love it, but you're contradicting yourself in this process because you're also agreeing and admitting that the goal is to transform and transmute those parts.
That's what happens with love,
right.
with self-love.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You increase your amount of self-love through compassion, through all these modalities, through the different thoughts that you're thinking, through all that, to get to a point of where you're just simply loving yourself. You have none of these negative thoughts anymore. You don't have any of these negative emotions. Or I don't like negative. I don't like to use that
I
word.
think that
Yeah.
the part, for example, I had a very judgy part,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's not judging me, it's consulting me. So it still has a job, right? I don't think that you can completely eliminate things. I think you can transform them 1000%. Yes. But I can have a negative thought from watching the news. I can
Right.
be
So
in a whole state
right.
and then my dog, God forbid, dies.
Right.
You know? So what I'm trying
But
to
you're
say...
in charge of those thoughts.
Yes, but if my dog dies, what do I do?
It's
sorry,
not
Zoe.
going to
Love
be
you.
an easy situation, but your
Yeah.
dog dies and you say you're thankful for Zoe's life. You're thankful for all the things Zoe gave you. It's death is a part of life.
So-
Maybe there are better things coming for Zoe. Maybe Zoe was suffering at her
Yeah,
older
yeah.
age. Just because that's what I'm saying. The way that you're speaking, unfortunately, is really, I have to say, it's like victim consciousness.
Why?
Because you're pointing at external things and you're saying, what if those things happen, then I'll be affected. You see, it's the exact opposite argument of everything we've been talking about in this podcast. And that's why I think the IFS and the parts work, a lot of it can sometimes be victim consciousness. Because you're saying, look at these things that are happening externally and what if, and now I'll be affected. It's the exact opposite argument of feeling good and creating self-love. To realize that you are the creator of your reality. It's not the things that happen externally. It's how you view them. It's your perception of them. So you could look at anything and you can be grateful for it. And you can turn those situations, make them have meaning, search for meaning. It's Viktor Frankl's purpose in life. And you create the story. That's the whole point. Life comes down to three things: the energy, what you focus on, what you give energy, the meaning that you give that story, and then the action you take. So all of these things, the future, you said, what if Zoe dies? And all these things in the future, all of these things that we talk about are not present things. They're all future, they're past. They're all things that
I'm
only
giving you
exist
an
in our head.
example of a situation. I'm not being a victim. I'm just
Right.
giving you an example of a situation where it's not just about doing like 1, 2, or 3 practices to get out of the pain state.
Why not?
Because it's grief. I don't want to give
what
more
about it?
extreme
Yeah.
examples, but I'm just saying, I don't know, this is like kind of overwhelming, but I'm not being a victim here. I'm
Right.
just saying that in my perspective, you hug all the parts of you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just say, okay, I see you, I feel you, but you're just a kid in the back seat. So just sit there and get out of the way.
No one said to talk like that. You don't talk like that to your kid, especially if you're self-loving. But they're a kid. They don't drive the car.
Correct.
So there's two things happening. Number one is you're a kid and you don't drive the car. But I'm not saying your kid, sit down, I hate you, and don't talk and be quiet while your mother and I drive, and shut up and we're gonna tape your mouth, and like don't raise your hand if you have any question, like nothing.
Yeah.
Like no, you can be disciplined, you can be assertive, you can be affirmative, you can be all these things without being self-hating.
Good.
You can love those parts of yourself, but also be affirmative and standing up for yourself and letting yourself drive. And
I agree.
my argument is when you are consumed by negative stories, or I should say unpleasant, untrue, really stories that we make up for ourselves that make us feel bad. If we're consumed by any thought that creates an unpleasant feeling in us, we are not letting the self drive the car. There is a different part of us in your world, different version of us driving the car.
Yeah,
and
triggers. Those are triggers in my perspective.
My argument is we need to put like an emergency brake on the car. It's like the car needs to stop driving because
I agree.
Terrible things
I
can
agree,
happen.
and I just think we have different ways of doing that. But
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
We are saying the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It's just that I come from my perspective and you come from yours.
Maybe.
I totally agree. When I'm triggered, I'm not like... some people get triggered and they don't even notice that they're in a triggered state
Totally.
because
That's the first
it
step.
overwhelms them.
Yeah, you got to be aware.
So all of these practices, including IFS, including meditation, anything to ground you, helps you get out of that state. We're in agreement?
I think a lot of the practices that we mentioned help you become more aware of what's coming up for you.
Yeah.
So you can disidentify with that thing, so you can put self back in the seat of consciousness.
Yep. Create separation,
and then to transform or transmute any thoughts or feelings or actions that are misaligned with who you really are.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just... It goes back to our conversation, not on the podcast,
Right.
that I feel that specific words trigger me.
Yeah.
But I think we're saying the same thing. I think from my perspective, it's just more about delaying in that negative feeling state
Mm-hmm.
and being able to stay there without it meaning anything or like trashing my energy or good vibes. Like it's also okay to be there and feel that for as long as it takes until it releases. Because if you come to it with resistance or you come to it trying to change it, then it's not really... I don't think it drives the point home of like self-love and acceptance. That's what I'm trying to say. That's my perspective.
Yeah, and that's where we differ.
Yeah.
I think that's where we differ mostly, because
and it's
the
okay.
goal is really to change it, and you admitted that yourself.
The
a few
goal is
minutes
to
ago.
change it.
The goal is to transform it.
Yeah.
So it is okay going and be like, I want to change this thing. I want to feel different. I want to feel good. It is okay, and that's why
It is okay.
This is going back to the original topic of this conversation, is the spiritual bypassing. Like, this is why I think a lot of people struggle with progress, is because we have a concept and things that could work and make you feel better and let you live a more productive life. And then you have the counter argument, which is, wait, it's okay to sit in your feelings and to, basically like wallow in this difficult thing that's coming up. And no one's saying...
We can do both.
Even in the spiritual realm, no one's saying you can't feel your feelings. Like, people get triggered when they hear this, but you just have to like listen and like take this into consideration. That like, even the spiritual, what I'm mentioning in terms of the process to move back to love, that is not... There's no mention of denying your feelings. There's no mention of not engaging with your body. Like what I was saying the whole time, if you were listening, which was, you have to be aware of what's coming. You have to engage with it with non-judgmental, compassionate awareness, and take its very valuable communication and listen to what it's trying to tell you. But the goal is to transform that. The goal is to not necessarily engage with it in a way that traps you. That is the goal of a lot of these things. And I'm going to add in another point here.
I'll just say that I completely agree with you.
Okay, cool.
We are in agreement on that.
I think one of the things that I think that this is a major variable to this process that I think people are less in touch with. And I know this about myself. It's a felt experience, and I know this with a lot of people I talk to and work with. But like the concept that our bodies, we've been programmed. This is a study of epigenetics. This is a study of Dr. Bruce Lipton. We talk about being Gaia fans all the time, but he has some great content. And this concept between the ages of 0 and 7, like literally 85% of our brain and subconscious patterns are formed. So a huge part of our personalities are formed by the time we're age 10. So we've picked up programs, we've picked up beliefs, we've picked up patterns, and we are playing those out now. With those patterns that are given to us by our caregivers, they're given to us by the people around us as children, they're given to us by ourselves, they're given to us by past lives, they're given to us by so many things, by our biology, our genetics, so many variables go into it. But the point is we have those programs. And our body is made up of chemicals and the programs that we become very familiar with and we become addicted to. And so the point that I also would think is really important to add to this conversation is when we turn 30, 40, 50, or some age where there are decades of these patterns playing out, to catch yourself in these patterns, you're like, wait a sec, I'm only doing this, I'm only thinking this unpleasant thought, I'm only feeling this unpleasant emotion because I'm so used to it. Because I've been doing it for so long. This is Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and it's proven, like, scientifically, literally in a lab, about the amount of energy and time that we spend and are accustomed to feeling, and our body releases this concoction, literally like a cocktail of chemicals that rush our body because it feels safe. It thinks it needs it. It felt it from ages 0 to 10 or 0 to 15.
It already knows.
And yeah, hormones, everything gets released in your body. And so when we're 30, we're 40, we're 50, and we get into a similar external reality, similar external situation, and we get flooded with these hormones. We get flooded with these emotions. And it in large part, I'm not saying 90%, I'm not saying 80%, but a significant portion of why that's happening is because it's been happening for so long. That's literally the only reason, is because it's been happening. You know, we think 60, 70,000 thoughts a day. Again, this is on a lot of these Gaia episodes. I forget which one to quote, but they're all over the place. We think 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. 70% of those are negative. And like 80 to 90% of those thoughts are what we thought yesterday. So we are machines to some degree. We are habituated chemical, electronic machines. Our bodies are. So part of this process is to realize if I'm stuck in a negative thought pattern, if I'm stuck in a negative loop, if I have these consistent negative thoughts about myself, if I'm feeling anxious and depressed, and I'm feeling like I can't move, I can't get out of this place, just have that compassion for yourself and realize it's simply, quite possibly, an addiction. And that's okay. And the good news is this is just something your body is doing because it's used to doing.
I just had a part saying, oh, so now I have an addiction too.
Yeah,
I think that people are different, and I think everyone has their own way of navigating this. So it's not like one solution fits all. And I can say for myself, my mom abandoned me at age 3. And I formed a belief, right, with negative thoughts attached to it, that I'm not good enough. And I was in this like terrible loop of choosing friends and partners that I was not good enough for them. That was the overall experience. And I think the reason it kept happening was not because, it also because, yes, it's my loop and what I'm attracting, but on the other side of it, it's the universe confronting me with what happens inside, outside, to try and fix it, right? To try and maybe get a different outcome. And for me, what was helpful was to get to a point where it's so painful to stay the same that I have to change. But some people don't need to go through that loop of it getting to such a painful place, right? That was my story. And my story, everything fell in line with like IFS therapy. And I personally do not connect to like somatic work, body work, ice baths. So those techniques for me are not it for me. But for some other people, they will have their own way to regulate and their own way to change the neural pathways in their head. When they have a negative thought, boom, positive thought. And that's okay. I'm not in resistance to that. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I think that I know that I'm set in my ways because that's what changed my life. And just finding that way to relate to myself helped me change everything. Okay? That to say, I've done a lot of healing work. That doesn't mean I don't have the thought you're not enough sometimes. But I love myself. And I know I'm enough for me. Like, I feel good. Sometimes I still get the I'm not good enough thought, but I do feel good because I've done some solid emotional work on myself. And I guess that's what I want to, bring. The value I want to bring here is that everyone has their own way. You don't always have to, face the most painful thing ever. But there is a lot of value in lingering in the pain. Okay, and everything I'm saying, everything you're saying, it's all backed up. A lot of very important people are talking about it. And I guess I'm curious about your experience.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing. I mean, I think I have some response to that quickly, but yeah, I agree. Obviously, everyone, you kind of find your own methods and solutions that work for you. Of course, like that's why there's so many unique expressions of consciousness in this world. That's why we all have different expressions of creativity. That's why we're all different. If we're all the same, we'd all look the same, we'd all dress the same, we'd all do the same. So of course, there's different things that work. I will say some of this, there are a lot of solutions that are backed by science. You know, for example, like if you go to a cold bath, now not everyone likes it, or cold plunge. Not everyone.
A cold bath.
Yeah, you can take or a cold shower. It works too. But there's scientific data that's backing that. So for example, if you do a cold bath, like it increases the gray matter in your brain, the part of your brain that deals with fear, and it also increases significant amounts of dopamine in your brain. And so there are certain things that if you do scientifically, and that's what have a lot of backing in, and that's a lot of my research is in, and this is a lot of the biohacking industry, and a lot of it, eating healthy and health and wellness, it's to support you in that sense. You know, we talk about the right supplements to take from time to time, and
Yeah,
how your
you're
body,
helping me a lot.
yeah, we're talking about how your body can transform. So it's, you know, yes, some things work for some people, some things don't. However, there's also like a method to the madness. Like I think sometimes what I think is so many people are struggling with is there's so much confusion. Life sometimes seems really complicated and complex, and like people are like, I don't know how to get the answer. And when we start to be like, oh, there's so many things you could do, and it gets so confusing for people. And I really want to simplify it. I really do. That's what I want to do. I want to help people believe in themselves. I want to remove their limiting beliefs. I want to simplify it through spirituality, through practical applications that you can take. Like, yeah, cold plunge freaking sucks sometimes. Like everyone who takes it, everyone who does it every day, like we know it sucks sometimes. Like that's the whole point. And if you can get yourself to do it, you're increasing the parts of your brain that will really support you. That's why people do it. They don't do it because they love it. That's just one example. There's so many other things.
I agree.
So I just want to have people leave this with some hope and optimism. Like it's not this crazy complex map and journey and puzzle. Like there's literally concrete steps you can take that will help you feel better, help you believe in yourself, help you get over your self-limiting beliefs and obstacles and limitations. It's not like, oh, you find what, you know, yes, definitely find what works for you, but also there's real practical concrete steps you can take that are proven to help you. So like try it. And my argument is try it for a few months. Just like either theory, either anything that you hear online from us, whatever, just try it. Because I came from a background where it's like I needed data, I need to see something, I need information, and that will help me. Okay, well, if you did research on this and it's a legit study and there's this amount of people and you know that you're showing me this is what happens to the body, it's like, who am I? Like I have the same body you have, like it should respond very similarly, like that's what happens.
Yeah.
So I started there, and I still do believe that, but for me that's not 100% of the picture. That's like 50, 60, 70% of the picture. It's some percentage of the picture. The other percent of the picture is how do I feel? Like how do I feel as I go through this? And I could be manipulating that feeling to some degree because I could be having some thoughts that may be adjusting my feelings. But a big part of it is, the old paradigm was, I'll believe it when I see it. Right? Now the new paradigm with visualization and with taking ownership of your life and becoming the creator of your reality is, I'll see it because I believe it. And
I love that.
Yeah, and I think like that's where I'm at. That's where I think a lot of people need to be. And so using that tool will help you, and to give you more credibility on your journey, just try something. Like just try it. And try for a few months. Like try this positive thinking. Try these affirmations. And I'm sitting here telling you a belief is a thought you keep thinking. And you have beliefs that don't work for you. So just try to have new thoughts. Just try it for 3 to 6 months. Like really, if you've dealt with these situations and these issues for decades, like give it a real go for 3 to 6 months. Not asking too much. We're not talking like 24 hours of your day, but start listening to positive self-talk. I've got an app. I can literally post it here and send it. I listen to this guy 24/7. You can listen to yourself, record your own voice. I love myself. I love all that kind of stuff. And think positively. and just try it and see how you feel. See how you feel after 3 to 6 months.
And I would add and reckon that if that doesn't work for you and you feel like it's more deep-seated and there's a lot there to process, then definitely try therapy. Try part works, try shadow work, inner child. Write a letter to your child, like to your 3-year-old self. Look at a photo of you at age 3. Those things are transformative too.
They are. This is all part of that process.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying think positively and don't do this work. I've done all this stuff. So I'm at this place.
Do you think that's what I'm saying, that you're not saying that? Because I'm not contradicting you, I'm adding.
This is all part of the work, is that inner child that you're writing to yourself. And actually, it's a really cool exercise. And I've done this, and if people haven't done this, highly recommend. But if you write yourself, like if you can step into this archetype and version of yourself, it's the inner child, and you're writing to yourself like in a journal of everything that's coming up for you, like what you're feeling, what you're thinking. And I really want to continue working with people one-on-one doing this stuff because it's very life-changing. But if you write to yourself like with your non-dominant hand, I wrote it with my left because I'm right-handed, but if you write to yourself with your non-dominant hand, it's very interesting what comes up, because ironically, I think I sent you a picture when I did this. It looks very strange because it looks like literally a kid is writing it.
A different handwriting.
It's freaky because when you write with your non-dominant hand, it looks like a third grader wrote it, or less. I don't know how good third graders are with their handwriting.
And to finally say, every single practice or step that you take in the direction of self-love. Feeling good is self-love.
Totally.
Like even going out on a walk when you don't feel like it. It's all self-love.
Yeah, and that's what Earl Nightingale, I believe, has the credit for this quote. But they're trying to define like success. Like, what does it mean to be successful? And the definition for him to be successful, and this is the predecessor to Bob Proctor, one of Bob Proctor's trainers, and this is like 1950s, 1960s. He goes, progressive realization of a worthwhile goal. And that, for me, sums up self-love. The progressive realization of a worthwhile goal. Now, the goal in this situation is to fully embrace who you really are, which is love, pure light, energy, God, and to spread that. So the progressive realization is anything that you define for you that's moving in that direction. Is that walking 10,000 steps a day? Is that eating more broccoli than something else? Is that taking a cold plunge in the morning? Is that setting up a daily routine that works for you? Is that getting enough sleep?
Yeah, resting.
Is that resting? Is that doing more inner child work during the middle of the day? You know, now there's some things you have to be real honest with yourself, right? Because you could say, well, today I really need rest, so I'm going to watch 5 hours of Netflix. Well, you know, your body, this is a commentary on getting into your intuitive self and getting that into that calm real state, because you have to really start to be very disciplined, honest, and truthful with yourself. What is really a step towards self-love?
Yeah, am I running? Am I numbing?
Correct.
Or am I just resting and giving myself what I need?
Correct.
Yeah.
So that distinction that distinction is very personal. Like no one can give you that answer. You're gonna have to figure that out for yourself. Yeah. But you'll know it. You'll really know it. And you just have to have the discipline and transparency and honesty with yourself to move through that. But no one can tell you, you watch an hour, that's too much for you. It's like, no one's going to know. You're the only one that's going to know.
Yeah.
And there's different ways to do that. Some people love the methods like muscle testing is a great method for a lot of people. There's different tools that people use to get that. Like there's what's it called? Like the Psych K is a different method. Like it's called like a full brain. Literally, you can sit in like the full brain position, which is like crossing your arms and legs. And what that does is activates both sides of your brain. That's also why Hemisync works. It's another great tool for people to use. But I use it when I feel anxious or when I need to calm my body down.
Yeah.
It's a binaural beat. I'm sure people have heard of that, binaural beats. It's the same reason EMDR works, that therapy as well, because you're activating both sides of your brain. So there's all these tools that you can use to calm yourself, to get into a state of like being able to trust your body. And that will tell you, are you moving truly in your direction of self-love, yes or no? And then you have to have the discipline and awareness and self-compassion to start taking those action steps to move in the direction of self-love.
Basically, be honest with yourself.
Yeah, correct. You have to.
All right, I think this is a good ending point. Do you have anything you want to say or add?
No, it's great. I appreciate how like real and open and honest it is. I can probably sense for some people like it's a heavy concept. I get that. I think that probably people listening to this are also curious about ways to move forward on this journey. So I'm happy we can share it with them. I think this is maybe not all encompassing, but that's kind of what our work is with people, is to kind of go through this whole paradigm of sort of how do you get to that place and what steps can I take and how do I need to view the world. So that's why we offer services. You can work with me one-on-one. You can work with Rachel. Rachel's a bit more focused on the IFS and parts work. Mine is kind of all the other things I mentioned: subconscious rewiring, neuroplasticity, positive self-talk, and a lot of like health and wellness focuses. But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, that's our journeys, right? We're here to help ourselves and help others. So it's inspirational when we have this type of conversation.
It's also interesting because there's, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
multiple options.
Opposition here, like not opposition. How do you say, like
Polarity?
Bite, like, you know, like it's interesting. We're not just agreeing on everything.
Right.
We have different perspectives.
Keeps it spicy.
Yeah, exactly. Spicy.
Spicy.
That was the
There
word.
you go.
Yeah, me English no.
Cool. All right.
All right.
Talk to you next week.